Welcome back to Cocktails and Classics. I'm Dylan. Joining me, as always, is Ben.
Hello.
And we're back. It's been a minute. I feel like I say that every episode now that we do. We're at that time of the year.
Someone had to move. Someone had to move, so we had to wait for things to get moved and set up. And
that's what I was going to say. We're at the point of the year where you kind of retroactively go back and you think about, like, you reflect upon what's happened over the past year. And this year, and last year a little bit, I feel like we've had a ton of life events happening. Ben's had a baby. I've had a baby. Cameron had a baby. Ben's having a second baby. I bought a house. Like, there's so many things. We're adults. This is dad chat. And so I think when we had our...
Work travels on both sides.
So the episode count has gone down significantly. We're about like 1 or 2 a month, maybe.
To be
we
fair,
used to do every week.
The amount of time we have to watch movies has also, I feel like, gone down.
Yeah.
So,
and the other day we had like our friend group Christmas like gift exchange, and Carlos, if you've listened to the podcast for a long time, Carlos called me Ty Pennington the other day because I've been doing so much home renovation. And so, it's been when you think this will be like how out of touch I guess I was. I don't know. We're millennials, but you kind of think you're like, oh yeah, buying a house is expensive, right? Like you got to put, sometimes you don't have to put 3, 5, 10, 20% down. But you think of like putting, a decent down payment on your house, and you're like, that's a big chunk of change. And then I got to pay my monthly payments. But then you don't really think about like our moving costs were pretty low, but moving costs, I got to paint the whole house if you like pretty much if it's you buy a little older house and you got black walls, for instance. Then it's like, you do the inspection before, you got to pay for the inspection, which comes out of your mortgage, but like you do the inspection and it's like, hey, like you got this plug or you got this thing that you want to fix and this thing that you want to fix. And so then you start to like kind of go down the list, and like, I think we got the keys in November and it's December like 20th. And we're finally at like a place where we're like, yeah, let's put everything away. We're good. Like this is our home now. We've stayed here for like a week and a half. Like it feels good, like
just wait until, your friends, there's some sort of massive, I don't know, pandemic. So people are moving dates around and you're like, oh, cool. I'll renovate my basement. It's a big open empty space. We can put a couple walls up there, kind of make a nice L shape. I can build a little office. We'll put a half bath in. Then wait till you get about halfway through it. Then your basement floods. So then you've got to drop another 15, 20 grand to have all new foundation stuff done.
Remediation, yeah.
And then another couple grand because all the walls on the outside, the exterior walls of the house that you didn't plan on putting drywall and that over, you now have to frame and drywall. And, oh, man, your furnace dies the first year you're in your house. You move in the first week, you find out that your cast iron stack is clogged, so you pretty much have to have that ripped out and all new stack ran from your house. Houses sometimes are a pain in the ass.
Well, that's what I was like, we've been doing things, and I forget what it was. It was the bathroom vent in our bathroom was not vented out of the house. It was just vented into the attic. And so, like, that's how you get mold and mildew, especially if you have, like, a vented soffit, because then that's how that, like, air flows. And so, especially if you, like, try to vent out of the soffit, it'll go out and it'll just come back in. So you want to, like, go straight out and whatever. And so I was, like, pricing that. And I was like, it's going to be, like $100 for, like, insulated tube and then like the actual roof thing or whatever. And I was like, I don't know. My parents are like $100, like that's cheap for home stuff. And I was like, it just kind of like changes your perspective on stuff. Because if I went to the store and I was like, I want to buy this electronic or I want to buy this video game or whatever, and it's $70, like I'm like, do I really need this $70 thing? But then when it comes to like your house, you're like, I should just do this $100 thing.
Oh, I
because
know.
In the
I
long
finished.
run,
Finally finished my ESPN college football trial, and I was like, I do really like playing it. $70 though. I don't know. Now I'm about to go run out tomorrow morning, drop about $100+ on a brand new toilet wax ring, and replace a toilet tomorrow. And I'm sitting there going, yeah, okay, that's not bad.
yeah, I mean, it just your life is in perspective. It's like the house. I gotta live in this, so I don't want to live in mold. I don't want a broken toilet. Like I can live without college football for another week.
Two things that'll change your perspective on prices of things: houses, children. Those two things, you'll just be like, oh, all right.
Children all the way.
What are you gonna do? Not,
dude. I mean, we with our baby girl tried every fucking type of like nipple and bottle and under the sun, because I was so sick of. We've talked about this Dr. Brown's, like the Dr. Brown's bottles with this like green anti-colic like chamber thing in it, and it's like such a pain in the ass because it's like 7 parts to clean, and then you look at like Cameron, his bottles are 3 parts. He's got like the Lancino ones, and I'm like, Isla, just take the Lancino bottle, please. It's so much easier to clean than the Dr. Brown's. So next baby, I'm going to try different bottles first, and then maybe come back to Dr. Brown's. But
see, we did, and we found that those were the ones that he liked the most.
That's the problem. You're beholden to the baby, because I'd rather you be happy than me deal with the lashback of gas.
Unfortunately, it's really it's a what they say goes.
And hey, we're talking about kids. We're talking about sometimes they're little shits. Much like this film, The Holdovers. That we're covering this week. I was trying to transition. It wasn't a great one, but
it was all right. Not bad.
This week, we had a little break. We're renovating homes and moving and doing all of that, big life events going on, and so it's December. It's late December now. We haven't done any Christmas movies, or anything really holiday. So we're doing The Holdovers. This is a 2023 holiday comedy dramedy from last year. And it's the story of a curmudgeonly instructor at a New England school remains on campus during Christmas break. He soon forms an unlikely bond with a brainy but damaged troublemaker, and with the school's cook, a woman who just lost her son in the Vietnam War. It's directed by Alexander Payne, who we did Election, was another Alexander Payne film. And then if you've seen Nebraska, which was fairly recent, and Sideways, those are all Alexander Payne films. Which, hey, Paul Giamatti, Sideways, Holdovers, hey. And then written by David Hemmingson, sorry. Stars Paul Giamatti, Divine Joy Randolph, Dominic Sessa, Carrie Preston. It's about it. I mean, hell, this is Dominic Sessa's first movie that he was ever in. He was like a drama kid or something, I read.
This was very much like an unknown cat. I'd imagine this had to be a relatively low budget cast wise movie.
Probably. I mean, I feel like maybe most of the money went to like locations, because it seems like I read that everything was shot on location or like used real sets. So I mean, I'm sure that was probably a decent amount of the budget. I mean, let's see what if they have stats on the bottom of this page here. I don't see a like cost, but I'm sure it wasn't like a ton. Currently sits at a 7.9 out of 10 on IMDb, and a 4.2 out of 5 on Letterboxd. It's the number 240 movie on Letterboxd out of on their like top 250 over there, and it was nominated for was nominated for 5 Oscars. Best Motion Picture of the Year, Best Performance by an Actor in a Leading Role for Paul Giamatti, Best Performance by an Actress in a Supporting Role for Divine Joy Randolph, which she won, Best Original Screenplay for David Hemmingson, and Best Achievement in Film Editing for Kevin Tent. And I hadn't seen this film. Had you?
I had not. No, I when we had talked about it and you suggested it, this was one that I very much remember it coming out.
Yeah.
And thinking to myself, I'd like to see that, but just being one of those things that it's like never got the chance to see it, and then
it's like we said, time to watch things.
Yeah,
dwindles. If it's not Bluey or Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, it doesn't.
It's
doesn't
not on in my house.
It doesn't happen during the day, and
Yeah.
then at night it's like your few limited hours. What are you gonna watch? You gonna watch the Holdovers, or are you gonna watch?
And well, not just that, but it just also seems like most of the time, it seems like you watch a TV show because it's something that's easy. That at a 20 or 30-minute break, you can just cut and run. You don't have to commit a full. There's so many times where it's like I get 2 episodes of a 22-minute show, and then after the 40 minutes, I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm ready to call it. Like, I'm good to call it a night. And it's like if I'm doing that with a 2-hour, 15-minute movie, it's going to take me 3 or 4 nights to watch it, and then it's one of those things where you're constantly then going back the next day and going, oh, what was going on when I left? What was happening? But this was one I'd seen on Prime Video maybe a month or so ago.
Okay.
It was a little while ago, and I debated watching it, and it was just one of those things I'd never gotten around to. And when you had mentioned it, I was like, yes, I wanted to watch that. Let's do that one.
I think I saw the trailer last year, and obviously, Paul Giamatti and Divine Joy's nominations. I was like, okay, yeah, sounds really good. Randall, our buddy who had come on and done Die Hard with us, he was like, hey, I loved this movie, and so I told him that we were doing it, and he was like, yes. I was like, I haven't seen it yet, so I'm excited because you're excited about it. So, but it's just the whole it's got that and I'm when people watch it, I'm sure you'll understand, or if you see the trailer, it has that. It's shot digitally, but it feels like film. It has that texture that
they definitely added that film grain.
Yeah, it feels like a movie from the 70s. It has that aesthetic, that comfy, cozy, old-timey kind of feel to it. I don't know what exactly it is. Maybe it's the setting. It's the
little bit of the setting. It's the way it's shot. The lighting, I think, definitely lends to it. It doesn't feel overly produced.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. It feels professional, whereas you watch some movies now and it's or even, you see some things where it's that doesn't look it very well lit and this and that, but it doesn't look professional. This looks like a professionally made movie, but it just looks like it was professionally made at a time where they did not have all of the bells and whistles that we have now.
It's kind of a low key movie too. There's not that many there's not a lot happening as far as action, but I feel like it's very much character based.
Oh yeah.
And following just these micro relationships between, I think his character name is Paul. Paul Hunham, Paul and Mary, Angus and Paul, even Angus and Mary, and then Lydia comes in there. The other kids are there for a minute. There's these micro relationships and how these characters develop and how these characters interact, and it's much more a character piece. And I was kind of, when I watched the first half, I kind of had this question that I was going to ask you of would you consider this a Christmas movie? because like I know sometimes people talk about like, oh well, this is a Christmas movie, this isn't a Christmas, like, Die Hard or like whatever. Um, but I feel like it's a Christmas movie. It's based around the Christmas holiday. Um, as far as like plot, like that's the reason they're the holdovers. They're staying there over the holiday. Um, and I mean, Paul Giamatti is like, hey, I'll do whatever you want for Christmas, and they go to Boston, and then like they end up doing the trip to see his dad or whatever, and like that's a big plot point at the end when he like does his confession of like, yeah, no, I took him, I wanted to take him, like you guys left him, and he wanted to see his dad. It was Christmas, he didn't have any family, like. What do you expect? So I do think this one is a Christmas and holiday movie. The first half I was kind of like, I don't know yet, and like definitely the second half of the movie I was like, okay, no, this is Christmas. But I just kind of interested in to see like what is considered like a Christmas movie to you, like what criteria hunkers down like a Christmas movie for you.
I think one, and I know we've kind of had the discussion with other Christmas movies. I think one of the big things that I think typically it has to take place during the season / over Christmas. I feel like that's criteria A for what makes something a Christmas movie. And I think two, the big thing that harkens this to a Christmas movie for me is that feeling of kind of characters becoming closer together or realizing or I guess experiencing some sort of character growth. And typically that growth happens due to the holiday occurrence. Like, yes, these people were locked in basically a locked room together for 2 weeks, but also I just think the fact that their experience of I wish your mom or dad would have came, and then Angus is lying, but he says my dad died. Those two kind of growing in this almost familial sense of coming together through kind of the holiday season and their experiences. I wasn't sure. I didn't realize this was I knew it was like a holiday, take place during the holidays, but I didn't think it was supposed to be like a Christmas movie. But after watching it, I'm like, yeah, I think this definitely would be along the lines of a almost it has the feeling almost of a classic Christmas movie. Even though it's only been a year since it came out, it feels, I mean, like we said, one, the way it looks brings that feeling to it as well. But yeah, there's just something just felt familiar watching it.
Oh, this is definitely gonna go in my like holiday rotation. I feel like I don't know. I feel like it was an immediate one where I was like, "Oh yeah, this is a good Christmas, like a holiday Christmas movie."
And not one I can watch with the kids, but
yeah.
One for me. It makes me feel festive.
Like, I don't know. There's a lot of those though. Like, I wouldn't watch like, let me see, Christmas with the Cranks. Like, I wouldn't necessarily watch that with my child now. She's only turning 2. I feel like that one's not so much there. Or like even some of the like romantic comedy Christmas movies. Like, I wouldn't be like, oh yeah, this is definitely a age appropriate Christmas movie. But like I'm not we're not in the PG phase. I'll say that much. I feel like we're still G. We're the Grinch and Mickey's Once Upon a Christmas, Twice Upon a Christmas area right now. But yeah, no, I was. It's nice to get some newer, even though like we're talking about, it feels old, it feels like classic, but it's nice to get some newer holiday movies and ones that aren't necessarily like so focused on the holiday in a sense.
I think one that like doesn't focus on the same trope or characters.
Yeah. Well, this movie, like, I could, for 70% of the movie, I could kind of be like, oh, yeah, this is what's going to happen. Like,
Oh.
this is kind of like, it's tropey in a sense of,
Yeah,
like, the general plot. But when they
yes.
went to, like, go see his dad, I was kind of like, oh, shit. Like, he said his dad was dead. This doesn't look like a cemetery.
Or, the big spoiler with Paul Giamatti where it's just like, oh, yeah, no, you were kicked out of school and basically came back here as a, like, adjunct teacher. And you've basically toiled away here for forever because you don't have a degree to actually, use to do anything with. So, like, there were things that were kind of a twist. It was just nice that it's a holiday movie that I feel like it doesn't focus around. It doesn't focus around Santa Claus or Frosty or Rudolph or one of those kind of, like, classic Christmas characters. And it also just wasn't. It wasn't a retelling of A Christmas Carol or one of the other. It wasn't It's a Wonderful Life, but told slightly differently. It wasn't one of the freaking Hallmark Christmas movies that they make 7 of them every year. It's like,
shoot them in May and then edit them by the time it's Christmas.
Yeah. He's a small town ski owner. And she's just moved in from the big city.
She has a big project due tomorrow, but she's trying to get out of the city. They happen to meet at the local coffee shop, and they're going Christmas tree shopping. Oh, and now she's moving to Christmas Town because she fell in love.
This Christmas, coming to Lifetime. Stocking
Starring
market.
Starring Anne Hathaway.
Oh, they can't get Anne Hathaway. Come on.
Oh, sorry. Starring Reese Witherspoon.
Starring Vanessa Hudgens. And Lacey Chabert.
And Ryan Philippe.
That's about all he's up to, right?
I'm trying to think of some male actor
Routh.
who's kind of... I would say, who's the dude who's like super fucking popular right now? I would have said him before this year. Glenn Powell. Yeah, I would have said fucking Glenn Powell before this year. Dude, fucking blew
the
up.
problem is you're thinking of people who are on the ascent. You need to think of people on the what's his name?
Gary Busey.
Mario Lopez.
Okay, yes. I'm sure he's been in one. He's has to.
Oh, I guarantee you he's been in more than one. Yeah. Starring Jamie Lynn Spears.
Oh my god. Yeah, like Glenn. Oh my god. Yeah, Glenn Powell. I'm like, this dude. I'm trying to look at like his before stuff because I'm like he feels like he would have been in one of those movies, but he really wasn't. He was in.
I think
whatever this April Apocalypse movie is. It looks pretty shit, but he's just like a background character in it though. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like my expectations were met with this film. We didn't even talk about the fucking cocktail. We're all out of sorts, Ben. We're all out of fucking sorts here. It's been too long.
Jesus Christ. Did we stretch before this? My God, we're pulling muscles. We look like those dudes who are 40 at the YMCA who think they're still 20. Out here podding with no warm-up.
Yeah.
We're all over the place. We've rolled our ankle.
Well,
metaphorically.
if people care about the cocktail at all, we'll go over it real quick in the middle of the fucking episode now. We're just all out of sorts. Doesn't feel good. Feels dirty. I'm sneaking it in here. We're doing in the film, Paul Giamatti's character. He some might say he's an alcoholic. He drinks a ton, but I guess he is on break, I guess.
No.
No,
I'm gonna
okay,
say
okay.
I'm gonna say when you're still going to drive and you pull the bottle out to have with you in the car, you have a problem.
Well, that was to signify that he stole the Remy Martin from the guy.
No. There were other
oh.
times where he was
Oh,
still
okay.
like drinking either right before or like while getting to or in the
I
car.
I thought when they left the bar after like he saved them from getting his ass kicked.
Do you think he was?
I
Gonna
thought he
let
was
the
going to
kid
have
drive?
him drive.
Oh,
Yeah.
I did too. I was 100% like, oh, he's not gonna. He's gonna let
He's
the
not
kid
gonna
drive
drunk
because
drive.
this dude,
Yeah.
this dude's wrecked. No, just
The
functionally.
70s, man. What are you
Nah,
gonna do?
you just measured. Let's be honest. You measured your driving distance in drinks. How long does it take you to get there? About 6 beers.
Oh god. What's a seatbelt?
Oh. Those things for nerds.
The kid just sits in your lap, right? They'll sit in the middle on the bench seat in the front.
What's so crazy? Like even thinking. Okay, I know we're just again hopping off the rails with random shit. But it's so weird to think, like, I remember being a kid, and I don't remember what age it was, but I remember at a certain age you just sat in the back seat. You weren't in a car seat, booster seat, whatever. And now it's like kids should be in a car seat until like almost second or third grade.
Well, even then they're like you should be in a booster seat until you're like 12.
Yeah, that's
like
crazy to me.
The other things, yeah. Well, I don't know what age it was, but I've kind of vividly remember like, all right, you don't like you're just chilling now, Dylan. And I was like, dang, all right.
I remember being like kindergarten
Yeah.
at a point similar to that, where it's just like you just sit in the back seat. Maybe you need to wear the seatbelt, like the one around your waist, and let the one that's supposed to go over your shoulder just sit behind you, because
where you
otherwise,
like tuck it behind you.
like it's just gonna be under your throat. Where if we stop abruptly enough, you will choke yourself.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm sure
remember-
kids still do that today, but that's definitely dangerous
Oh,
to
I
tuck
just-
it behind you.
I just remember when I was working, like this was a couple years ago, with someone who had a kid who was like 8 or 9, and they're like, yeah, they're upset because they still have to use the car seat or whatever, booster seat. I was like, what? Like, well, yeah, they don't hit the height weight requirement to not, or to be out of it yet. And I was just like, what are you talking about? By the time I was in like
This is a
first
grown
grade,
child.
they were like, we don't need this anymore.
You're still breastfeeding this child? He's 10.
It was just such a foreign thing to me, and now I'm sitting there and I'm like, yeah, you're not if you're not at the right height or weight, you're gonna be in the
If the kid can say boobs, he shouldn't be putting his mouth on them.
Yeah, just such a crazy thing. Such a crazy thing to me. But anywho, the cocktail this week. I finished mine, if you can't tell.
It's boobs. No, I'm just kidding. So Paul Giamatti's character, bit of a drink driver, a little bit of a booze head. His drink of choice was Jim Beam in the movie, and so this week we said, hey, we're probably going to bourbon cocktails next. It's winter. That's usually what we go to then. So this week we're doing a maple hot butter bourbon. It's a rich and indulgent winter cocktail. Combines the warmth of bourbon with the sweetness of maple syrup and the richness of butter, creating quite a treat. And it kind of seems like I'm a little bit of a Harry Potter nerd. I'll say it. I'm not ashamed. It's more my wife, but I've adopted it. But this kind of reminds me of some of the like butterbeer recipes that I see online, of people trying to like mimic from the movies / kind of copycat the taste from like if you've gone to the parks like Universal and gotten the butterbeers. But it's 1 part Jim Beam black, half part maple syrup, 2 parts hot water, a tablespoon of butter base, and you top that with whipped cream. And to make the butter base, use 1 stick of unsalted butter, a half cup of light brown sugar, a teaspoon of vanilla extract, ground cinnamon, cloves, nutmeg, and allspice, and a pinch of salt. And then you will blend all of those or mix them all until they are smooth. And you can store that in the freezer until you're ready to use it, because it's going to melt when you pour in the hot water into your beverage. And you want to use a heat-proof glass for that. I did not make it this week because, hey, my kid didn't nap, so I was watching the movie until we started recording. But Ben did make the cocktail, so...
You're in luck. I had just enough Jim Beam. Not just Jim Beam. I had just enough Jim Beam Black Label.
I don't think I own a single Jim Beam bottle.
I had,
but if they want to send me some, I would gladly accept.
I had the last little bit, and I'm like, I think this is like just enough for like a shot's worth to put in this cocktail, and it was. Yeah, this was really, it was really good, and the spices in that did feel very like wintry and
yeah,
like it provided that feeling that you get. I guess it had that. Like, I think it's the nutmeg and the allspice that really kind of, like, carry it with the cinnamon. I will say, we kind of made this decision a little late in the game, so I did not have just butter base sitting around. So I'll be honest, I took just the tablespoon of butter. I cut all of the, the seasonings and spices in that just into, like, a couple dashes, as opposed to full teaspoons. Pop that sucker in the microwave for like 10 seconds and then, kind of gave it a good mix till it did that like a couple times until it was like kind of melty and smooth. And then I added that into the cocktail instead, which was very good. I will say the only downside is when you get towards the end of the drink, because of like with butter, if you don't drink it fast enough and you're, I don't know, talking with someone or recording a podcast, so you're not necessarily drinking it super fast, it does start to kind of get filmy and kind of congeal. So I'm at the point now where I'm going to probably call it with this. But that said, it was very tasty. I did not have whipped cream, but I have a feeling with whipped cream, this would just kind of add just that extra little touch to just turn it into a full home run of a cocktail. I would definitely have these again. These would be like a very good sitting around either like on Christmas Day or at like a Christmas party. I feel like these would be a good cocktail, or just kind of sitting around to watch a Christmas movie. You're sitting there, you've got your cocktail, maybe you're here in, I don't know, Metro Detroit or something, and it's snowing outside, so it's kind of nice and it feels cozy indoors with your nice maple butter bourbon cocktail. But I would definitely recommend it. It's very good. It's sweet but not overly so. You still get a good hit of that bourbon flavor. The butter base it provides like a richness and heartiness to it, but also the seasonings just make you feel winter.
I was kind of thinking, I don't know, have you seen the like fat wash cocktails that people have been doing? Like you can like use like bacon fat, or you could probably do butter. Basically you mix the like liquid bacon fat and like a liquor, like a bourbon, or like you would liquid butter with bourbon. You basically like shake it up or whatever, and you let it like infuse, and you put it in the freezer, and then the fat will like come up to the top and freeze and make that like congealed layer. And then you like scoop that out and like strain it, and basically like imparts that like flavor through the liquor. So you'd have like a bacon hint of bacon flavor in the
This
bourbon.
seems
I
like the
wonder.
people who are just way too, like, to the point of it being annoying about how much they love bacon. Oh my god, I love bacon so much. I have my bacon soda, I use my bacon flip-flops, I have my bacon robe, and then I went ahead and started making my own bacon-infused cocktails. It's too much, man. It sounds fucked up. I'll say it. It sounds fucked up.
Let me
Don't do
hide
that.
my
Don't do
bacon
that.
bourbon bottles real quick. No. But I wonder if you could do that with this butter base and kind of impart these flavors and not have to have like a whole whatever teaspoon of whatever it's however much butter you actually end up getting in the actual cocktail. Like, I don't know.
I'll be honest. It does make you feel kind of gross when you're drinking it, and you're like, "There's a full
when you sit and like
tablespoon of
look
butter
at a
in here."
teaspoon of butter going into your
That's like why
But-
I was kind of like, at least if I melt it and I mix it, because when you melt it with the brown sugar and the seasonings in that, it does almost become
like a
It
paste.
almost seems more like a sauce, even thinner than that. Like, it does feel more like a sauce. I use a similar recipe with brown sugar and butter for sweet potatoes. So, like, it just seems very akin to that, like a syrup that you would use for that. And then when you add it, to the whiskey with the hot water, it's not bad. But after a while, when it starts to cool, it's like, this is kind of rough. Maybe I don't want this. But
Yeah, like I was
'cause
thinking,
then it's staring you in the face, and it's like you just drank all that butter. You feel good about yourself.
Yeah, that's why I was like, maybe this like fat infused
How's
butter.
that obesity feel?
That's why I was thinking like that fat infused like butter bourbon thing might kind of like fight that because you're already removing all the fat solids out of it. So then it's like you don't have to see the congeal like butter piece after the fact.
Yeah, either that or if there were a way you could mix it more like just into like a cream, like a heavy cream or something instead. I don't know if it was just something that was a more liquid base, but yeah. I still 100% would have this again. And I think, like I said, with some nice little bit of whipped cream and a nice little pinch of cinnamon on there. Put a little cinnamon stick in there if you want to make yourself, if you want to post it on the socials.
It feels like I'm having one of these though. Like you're not drinking 2 sticks of butter.
No. Well, it's 2 tablespoons, but still, when you look at a stick of butter and you're like,
and you measure a tablespoon, you're like,
I'm about to drink a quarter of this. This is pretty fucking gross.
Yeah. That's like
Let me add that with alcohol and with the other animal product I eat and wonder why I'm gonna have a heart attack at 40.
That's we make like those the M&M cookies that I've brought a couple times to the gift exchange and stuff. Like we make those around Christmas, and it's like use 2 sticks of butter, and I'm like, fuck, that's a lot of butter. Like, I mean, granted, it's a lot of cookies, but like, damn. Because they always they don't say sticks, they say like whatever 8 tablespoons or some shit, and you're like, oh yeah, 8 tablespoons.
8 tablespoons.
Oh
that's
shit,
not
that's
bad.
2.
Oh, 8's a stick.
That's 2 sticks of butter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Huh. Is that real?
But hit up the show notes, make yourself a maple hot butter bourbon, and hit up the casker link to get yourself some Jim Beam Black. And we get a little kickback from that, and you get alcohol delivered directly to your door. And hey, it's a perfect time. It's cold out. It's the end of the year, Make yourself a little warm drink, sit back, finish this podcast, watch the Holdovers, You'll be feeling right. You'll be feeling the holiday season.
Yeah, absolutely. Have it come to you. Don't go out in the snow and the sleet.
Yeah, you don't have to go
Just
shovel
order
your big ass driveway like I did.
Yeah, don't just order it. Have it come to you. You have people at a party. You don't want to be that person who's like, oh, I gotta go run out and leave all the people who are here. No, No, you order it ahead of time and it comes right to you. That's the American way. You drink butter and you have shit sent right to you. It's the best. It's a reason we're the best country, baby. USA, USA, USA.
It'd be car dependent, but make somebody else be driving the car.
You're damn right.
Oh man. I just want to say that I do believe Divine Joy Randolph deserved her Oscar nomination. Very much so.
100%.
But also, I think Paul Giamatti should have won. I'm about to look up who won instead. But he played this character so well. I think he was, and that's kind of, I don't know. I want to say like, Cillian Murphy won for Oppenheimer. Nah, I would still go Paul Giamatti. I don't know, man.
All right.
He fucking killed it.
So this
But,
is a
like,
segment I've been thinking about introducing since I was halfway through this movie. I know we've done other films with great, what I would define as character actors, but I would like to submit to you, Dylan, that for the Cocktails and Classics podcast, Paul Giamatti is the first actor inducted into the Cocktails and Classics Character Actor Hall of Fame.
I would agree. I'd give it to him. I fucking love Paul Giamatti.
Let's do it, baby. I'm going to start keeping a track of it. I know there's other ones that I know we've seen them in. I've been like, oh, what a great character actor. But Paul Giamatti is one of the freaking best. And throughout this entire movie, I'm sitting there being like, it's incredible to me that this guy this is like his leading man role, and it still seems more like a character actor role than anything else, but he just knocks it out of the park. I'm like, this guy's one of, if not like one of the best character actors of all time, and I think he deserves
just
it.
like, I mean, I don't like see Paul Giamatti on the street that much, but like just his like whole demeanor in the movie, like there's the scene, I think it's when they're leaving the liquor store and they're like, he's drinking from the bottle and they're kind of like walking side by side, and he kind of is like got this weird little like hunch, like stride to him, and I was like he's like embodying this character right now, like fully, and I was like, shit, Paul Giamatti is so good. Like, it's just these like small mannerisms and small things where he's like saying some line. I forget. Oh, like where he's at the bar in the bowling alley and he's like talking to the guys and he's like, oh, your garb isn't accurate because Santa Claus is actually Turkish and it would be more like flip-flops and sandals, but I guess because of the cold and everything that wouldn't really fit. And then he like puts his pipe in and kind of sits back smug, and I was like, fucking A, like he's so good at like just being this like, I know a lot and I'm kind of smug about knowing this much, and I'm going to give you this little tidbit of information even though you didn't ask for it.
I'm going to tell you this so that I can prove to you I'm better than you without like having to come right out and say it, but it'll make me feel better to know I'm better than you.
Yeah, I don't know if he tries to be like that, like if that's like he wants to be better than people, but it is kind of like it kind of come across like that sometimes, like.
I think it's 100% the case. I think in terms of his character in this movie, I mean, you find out when he talks to the guy at Harvard, he wants him to think that he's doing so much better. As much as he, I don't want to say fully hates, but as much as he can't stand the entitled, privileged kids that he deals with, he came from that same background. So in his mind, he probably views himself in some way because he failed out and he never finished his degree. He considers himself a failure, and for him to look smarter than everyone I think in his mind makes him feel better about himself and makes him feel more confident that he's, he belongs and that, he's accomplished more than he has. Like when they're at the bar and he says something along the lines of like, well, why don't I buy you an imbibement and we can let this go the way of the dodo? And they're like, what? What are you talking about? It's like no one needs to talk like that, but for him, talking like that makes him seem better and smarter, and he's more on a pedestal than others. Because in his own mind, I think he really views himself as a failure, but this helps him think he's done more.
Well, and I think part of it is, it's maybe not so much that like he's from that background, but like, obviously he doesn't like these rich privileged kids because of like what happened to him at Harvard, where he's like, oh well, that kid cheated off me, and then like because he had people like that knew his dad on the board or whatever, like they sided with him, so it's like kind of just all stems from that. But going off of just like how great he does in this movie, it's all these like nuanced like scenes to me that really drive home the whole movie in general, but just his character as well. Like when they end up going to the Christmas party with Lydia, or at Lydia's house, and like he's having his moment with Lydia, and like you're kind of like, okay, all right, they're kind of hitting it off, like this is good. And then she's like, oh wait, hold on, somebody's here, and like she goes to like meet her boyfriend or whoever, and they start like really kissing and stuff, and at the door, and he like turns around and sees it, and just like the look and like his reaction and like taking off his glasses and everything, and he's just like so defeated, and you're like, fuck, like you can feel for him. So does such a good job of just like conveying that emotion without even having to say anything. Like you're just like, damn, like ugh. And then later on in the movie, I believe it's when Mary is going to see her sister at her house in Boston, and he like has a moment with her where he puts his hand on her hand, and you're just like, oh, like there is a human behind this facade of like being a know-it-all asshole, and he like reaches out, and she's like, ew, like,
Yeah.
why are your hands so sweaty? You're just like, oh man. But yeah, it's just like these micro, and I'm sure a lot of it is Paul Giamatti, but I'm sure some of it is also Alexander Payne, and like, them fleshing out this character that someone created. Like I'm sure it is a group effort, especially like cutting to a scene where like, he touches her hand or whatever. Like I'm sure that was everybody communicating to create that. But it's these small nuanced things that I think make this movie a lot better. Like when they're in the hotel room and the pills fall out of the kid's bag. What is his name?
Angus?
Angus, that's what it is. I just finished the movie. You would think I'd remember it. When the pills fall out of Angus's bag, and he's like, oh, like whatever, Liprum or whatever it was. And he's like, oh, it's just something I have to take. And he's like, for depression? And it's like, whatever, blows it off. And then he goes over to his bag and he takes the same medicine. It's like you see this human connection created kind of in real time in this movie, and it is something that I feel like people like. I mean, obviously, because the movie's like an 8 out of 10, but I think sometimes like movies that display this human connection and like human relationships in a realistic and slightly fictional like aspect, I think people enjoy. I think it's something that anyone can relate to, and I think that's why this movie is as good as it is. I mean, hell, like the whole Mary plotline of like losing her son and like finding joy in her sister having a baby, like kind of finding a new purpose. I feel like not necessarily purpose, but I feel like it's a little. I feel it's a little harsh in saying that way, but I don't mean it like that. But like, she's like, oh, I'm gonna start saving up for college for my nephew, and it's like she kind of finds a way to grieve for her son, and come to the realization that like, he has passed, and I can move on in life, and like I can find joy in other things, and I still have other people in my life, and so like, while that is like a side kind of B plot to the film, like it's not. I feel like it's maybe the B plot, but like, I mean, it might be less because I feel like the A is obviously just like the holdovers and Angus and Paul and Mary and that like whole dynamic. But then I feel like B is probably Angus trying to see his father.
I feel like it's one of those things where the A plot is kind of the web connecting the three of them, and each of them have a B plot. You have Angus, and I don't even know that it would be his, I guess, maybe him going to see his dad, but maybe it's more so his frustration with his mom because she basically promised him the chance to see his dad and then ripped it away from him.
Yeah. Also, fuck the mom, dude. That whole situation, I was just like, God damn.
Yeah,
she's like, it just kind of.
Sorry,
like,
we haven't had the chance to go on a honeymoon. You guys had 4 months. Like, you've been married since June. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah, I know, but we just haven't had the chance. Like, are you serious? You're telling me this today, the day you're supposed to pick me up? That's the other thing that would have absolutely floored me is like, you've known about this for how long, but you waited until the day you were supposed to be here to get me to just be like, oops, sorry.
Well, and then like at the end where it was like, because he went and saw his dad, and his dad, I assume his dad actually felt better because he like realized like, because he had the snow globe and stuff, he like realized that that was like my son, and like oh, I want to get out of here, I want to go home, that sort of thing. But then he couldn't, and like it just kind of felt like she was playing the victim, where it was like, well, now I have to move him, and like this has caused a bigger problem for us. Like he can't come home, obviously, because
it's caused a new problem for my rich new husband.
Yeah, I was like, oh, fuck you. Which like is one of the things I want to talk about. Like I don't think I really brought it up. I think I started to mention it a second ago, but it was like towards the beginning of this film, I feel like one of the things that I liked about it obviously is this like all of this human connection, but then I feel like you can kind of relate with the characters, but then at the same time you also can hate the main two characters, I feel like, equally. Like they have these genuine and good qualities, but at the same time you're also like, God, they kind of suck, both of them, for different reasons. Oh yeah, but like
100%.
Yeah, I just feel like it was very much like a good and bad from both sides, which I like in a movie. Like I feel like, especially
it feels
in a movie
real.
Like this, where it's like, yeah, like especially this movie where it's like, I can feel for Angus. Like you're stuck here over 2 weeks with this dude who's kind of being a hard ass, and he's like trying to follow this book, but you're stuck in the infirmary, so you're not even in your actual dorm room. Like you're eating freezer food and all this, and then at the same time you can feel for like Paul, where it's like, I gotta deal with this little shit of a kid who's like,
I wasn't even supposed to be doing this. This wasn't even supposed to be me. I got handed this because I flunked a kid who, although I think
deserved it,
but then if you remember, Angus is the only kid in his class to get above a C.
Yeah.
He hands out the papers, no A's. The B plus Angus gets is the highest in the class. Everyone else, I think there's one C plus, and the rest are all C minus to Fs. It's like, okay, at that point, if you're failing that many people, something's on you, bro. That's like those professors who are like, I don't give hundreds. Oh, fuck you. If I meet the criteria for 100, then I've earned the 100. You don't just get to sit there and be like, well, it's people who like brag about being, I'm a hard grader. Cool. So what? So if someone meets the requirement for an A, you just are not going to give it to them because you like the reputation of being an asshole?
Yeah.
So it does make you wonder, did that kid really deserve the F? Or was it something where he fails most of his students or gives them pretty poor grades regardless?
It's probably a little of both. I also think, I assume, this is that a lot of those kids just kind of glide by because they've already been dealt a good hand in life.
Oh, I mean,
half of them are like going to Cornell already or Yale or whatever,
yeah, I mean, they're so, I don't know. If we haven't done it, it's one I feel like maybe I've recommended. The movie School Ties.
I have not.
Matt Damon, Chris O'Donnell, Brendan Fraser, Ben Affleck. I want to say there's a couple more. Who's the guy? One of them was just Cole Hauser, who was just finished up Yellowstone, isn't it? The whole cast of School Ties, all of like the teenagers in the movie are all just like super huge stars now. It's honestly kind of ridiculous. But anywho, it's a very similar, I mean, it deals more with bigotry in that than this movie does. But they attend kind of a similar thing. It's like the late 50s, early 60s, and they attend. Ben,
do you know who wrote School Ties?
I don't.
Executive producer Dick Wolf.
Dun dun.
Bum bum.
But they're in like a New England prep school that is, it's I think the one headmaster or whatever calls it like the gateway to the Ivy League. So that's what they're there for. They go to this high school, and then basically that's where Harvard, Yale, Cornell, all of those schools just typically tend to recruit from. But typically they're in the other movie too, they're portrayed as kind of coasting along on easy street and being stuck up, as I believe Mary calls them, rich little assholes.
When I had seen the trailer, I kind of got like Dead Poets Society vibes from this the trailer, and just like the it's a New England boys boarding school, like that was the vibes I got going into the movie. Coming out, obviously different feels.
Yeah,
but. Yeah.
Oh my god, this is fantastic! I'm looking at the trivia for the movie. The day when they shot the scene where Angus tries to call home, they said Dominic Sessa didn't know how to dial and had to be shown how to dial a phone. Oh no! I'm old.
It's one of those things that
that one hurts.
I've already had these moments in life, Ben. When I worked at Overtime, we had like things where they were playing for like in arena entertainment with the kids, and they were kind of like trying to figure out things to like show the guys from like the 90s or the 80s, and like, do you know what this thing is? And there was a lot of stuff like a pager or whatever. Just like, how do you guys
Walkman.
not know? I mean, I guess you weren't born at this point, but like, like, how do you not know what a pager is? How do you not know how a rotary phone works? You've seen movies, right?
Oh man, Zach would be thrilled at this. Divine Joy Randolph, a non-smoker, she said that smoking fake cigarettes looked unrealistic, so she instead opted to smoke real cigarettes on screen. While being sensitive not to become addicted to nicotine, she decided on American Spirits as the brand. Oh no, this is the brand she disliked the most and could easily quit after filming Wrapped. So she smoked American Spirits for the movie because she didn't like them and knew she'd be able to stop. Also, as someone who's injured their shoulder and done a pretty bad number on themselves, the scene where he dislocates his shoulders was rough for me.
Say that one more time.
As someone who has destroyed their shoulder, I can
Oh,
go ahead and seeing the scene where he dislocates his shoulder and has like the whole huge protrusion. Oh, that was rough for me. Mine, thank God, was not that bad. It wasn't like protruding. It was just super swollen. And like by the next day or so, it was kind of purpley. But, yeah. Oh, God. Oh, that shit gets me.
I thought he had broken his hand in that scene. I don't know why. Like,
I think it's because they cut to him and like he's sitting like this, like with his hand
like
out
in the
like
car.
that. Yeah, it wasn't until I saw when they had this shirt off and it was like they did like the and I was like, gross. And then when they said something about popping it back in, because I did much more than just dislocating my shoulder. But at the time, I thought that's what happened, and I was so worried when I was at the hospital. I'm like, they're gonna have to pop this thing back in, and it is going to hurt like hell.
okay, I was gonna say, Paul Giamatti doesn't have a lazy eye, does he?
No, did you just notice that they had the prosthetic thing in there? I'll be honest, it took me until like the last scene when he walks out of the like headmaster's office when I was finally like, wait a minute. What? And then it dawned on me the whole which eye do you aim with? And then I was like, oh yeah, huh. That does make more sense. I never really, I guess, paid attention to try to look him in the eyes all the time to notice it.
Well, I was like, huh, that's weird that they would like maybe Paul Giamatti's just super comfortable with it and like bringing that up in the movie, because I was like, I noticed it early on, and then when he said something, I was like, damn, I can't believe they're just talking about this lazy eye or whatever. It says in the trivia that Paul Hunham's lazy eye was Paul Giamatti's idea and started out as a prank on Dominic Sessa before being incorporated into the script. Alexander Payne came up with the idea on set to continually swap out the lazy eye on either side, as well as the car doors, to show the character development of trying to see yourself in someone else's situation.
Okay, I was going to point out the fact, because I didn't see it listed on here, that his lazy eye kept switching throughout the movie. Which I think is why it took me so long to fully, like, really catch on to it. Because I would notice something weird and I'm like, huh, that's odd. And then the next scene it would be like in the other eye. And I'm like, well, maybe I'm just seeing things. And then once they kind of more so pointed it out, I was like, oh yeah, this makes sense. It's at the time it was his left eye. And then in the next scene it's his right. And I'm like, wait a minute, what is going on? Do they seriously not pay attention to this? Like, this seems pretty obvious to mess up. But it makes sense if they did it purposefully.
It was funny at the end when he's just like, yeah, and it's this eye, by the way. Just like walks off. You're like, oh my fucking god.
Oh my god. So the bottle of Remy Martin today, 10K.
Hey, hit up the show notes below.
It went
Buy
for about
yourself that bottle of
1,300
Remy
in
Martin.
1970.
Buy yourself that bottle of Remy Martin off of Caskers.
Be sure to use the code Cocktails and Classics. It really helps. Really helps put a little bit of a kickback in our pocket.
Pay off my house renovations real quick.
Hey, you want weekly episodes? This is how we get them, people.
We'll all pool together. We'll share one bottle of Remy Martin. Us and every listener.
All 8 of them.
Everybody gets one swig.
We'll go ahead. We'll go do some alley pulls somewhere. We'll get real dirty with it.
That'll be our first live show. We'll just all meet in an alley. do pulls of a Remy Martin bottle, and we'll talk about whatever movie we saw this week.
Whatever movie we snuck in to watch at a theater. Like a bunch of degenerates.
We all bought tickets for the Bluey movie, and then we all went over to... we all snuck into fucking Interstellar 2, Electric Boogaloo. We're going to talk about it in the back alley and drink Remy Martin. I'm Dylan. Join this week's band. This week we saw Interstellar 2.
It was great. It was great.
This week neither of us had seen the film. That's 2 goobs on the Goob Squad. I'll go first, Ben. I would love to go first.
After you.
And I didn't write anything up this week, so I might ramble. Usually I pre-write my reviews, but yeah, like Ben said, this is one that I had seen come out last year. Just I don't go to the movies really. The last time I went to the movies was to see Snack Shack, and that's because my friends made it. So I just don't go to the movies that often. The one time this whole year, and before that, I probably hadn't gone for 2 or 3 years, which sucked. Yeah, I was excited to see this one. I didn't know how holiday forward or like Christmassy movie it would be going in. I just knew like they're holdovers, they're staying over the Christmas season. Like I knew that premise set up. And I was pleasantly surprised. Expectations met, and I feel like exceeded. Like I said, I think this is one that I'm going to continue to watch. Maybe not yearly, but this is going into my Christmas rotation. I feel like this is an excellent character study, relationship-based film about, this curmudgeon, salty teacher who's kind of angry at the world around him, I feel like, almost. Not that he's necessarily angry, but like just kind of upset with the world around him. You have a kid who's upset with the world around him. And then you have a mom who's dealing with actual real life grief and like everyone's kind of dealing with the hand that they're dealt in life, and how their relationship between the 3 of them kind of grows or falls back or evolves throughout this film. And I think it's shot amazingly well. It feels like a classic, like we said. It feels like a movie from the 70s. They got the aesthetic right. And with that, I feel like it brings that warmth, that coziness of an old movie, like an old nostalgic movie. You get that body warmth, that like tingle where you're like, oh, this is a movie that I really like and I enjoy, and like it's a comfort movie. And I feel like this is a good comfort movie. I think I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. I really enjoyed this movie. I feel like the one setback I would give it is that it is a little, I wouldn't say necessarily tropey, but you can kind of see a lot of the premise. And maybe, it's playing off of that. But it did kind of feel like I had seen this movie before in the sense of like the premise and like some of the things that happen. I was like, oh, I've seen this movie before. But I was surprised at points. And I don't know. I would highly recommend this movie. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. And if you have, give it a rewatch. Like I said, like it's going in my rotation. You can check it out on Amazon Prime as of recording, by the way.
All right. Yeah, I think a lot of the same sentiment on my end. I remember this movie coming out. I think, to be honest, my expectation, I was not expecting it to boil down to it being Paul and Angus. I thought it was going to be more about like him and all 5 of the kids. So I thought it was going to be more of like a little tight-knit family of like the 6 of them. So that I do think kind of took me for a loop when it's like, oh, the rest of the kids are leaving. So now it's just those 2.
The rest of the kids are going on a ski trip. They're leaving in this kid's helicopter.
Yeah, with the CEO of Pratt Whitney. Freaking ridiculous. Yeah, I think for a cast that upon reading the list of names, I went, who? What? I was blown away by how much they got me to feel connected to their characters. I mean, Paul Giamatti wasn't shocking. Again, like I said, I've made it official. He's the first entrant into the Cocktails and Classics Character Actor Hall of Fame. It's well deserved. I know there will be some other actors that will join him, but he gets the honor of being number 1. But Divine Joy Randolph was honestly phenomenal, and I loved her character the most out of anyone in this movie. Even from like, not the first time we meet her, because the first time we meet her, obviously she's kind of grieving in the church. But the first time Paul goes to talk to her, and she's just like, oh, because you failed him? Like, yeah, and his dad's a rich asshole? These kids are little, rich, spoiled assholes. It's like, yeah, yeah, pretty much. And she's like, she knows what's going on. She has an understanding of these kids are all super privileged. And
I mean, when she's like, I took this job because it would put my son in a better position to get a great education. I was like, oh, Mary knows exactly what she's doing.
Yeah, like, Mary knows the score. She's not stupid. She knows. Yeah, I think even for this being Dominic Sessa's first movie, I was shocked how well he performed as, and you watch some of these movies sometimes and you're like, this kid does not pass to me as being a high school aged kid. He did not seem like a 30-year-old playing a high schooler, like sometimes it feels like actors are. Even when they're not that old, sometimes either the characters are written in a way that make them feel older, or they're acted in a way that makes them feel older. But yeah, for this to be a movie that's not...
Yeah, I saw that Angus was originally written as like a 15-year-old, and he was like, I'm not going to pass as like a 15-year-old. Please make it an older kid who has failed.
I mean, props to him for thinking ahead.
Yeah.
But But yeah, I just think, like we said, for a movie where there's not a ton of, like, I don't want to say there's not a lot that happens. There's not a lot of big events in the movie.
I feel like the beauty of this movie...
There are plot points in the movie, and there are events that happen that move the story along, but there are no, like, major event happens, and then we have kind of exposition until we get to next major event happening. And so that means in a movie like that, the actors really do have to carry a lot, and everyone in this movie did so well. I think I had it as an 8 out of 10. I don't know. I think the acting was phenomenal. I just think there were parts, and again, it could be along the same lines where, I was trying to watch this movie while taking care of a 2-year-old, so I'm sure there were times where, as best as I can stay focused on one thing, I'm hearing him upstairs with my wife getting into shit and needing to, like, pause and leave and come back. But just at a gut check an 8. But I would say, yeah, this would be a movie that I would say, like, around the holiday times, I will definitely watch again. Just all around very good movie. I, again, would highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. Like we said, do be aware that yes, it is a holiday movie, and it does feel like a holiday movie. Just obviously pay attention to the fact that it's an R-rated movie, so don't be like, oh, this podcast said it was a holiday movie, I'll watch it with the kids. Putting it out there now. Don't put that on us. We gave you fair warning.
I was going to say, I think the beauty in this movie is there is a lot of emotion within the film. Like, there was quite a few moments where I felt for the characters. Like, got a little teary-eyed when Mary is, like, opens the box and starts pulling out the baby shoes and, like, the Santa Claus. I was like, oh, like, this is about to get me.
I think it got me too, just when she was getting that kind of, like, almost to the verge of tears, but also anger when she was describing the fact that there were kids that went to that school that didn't know how easy they had it, and her son couldn't afford college, so he had to go to war, and was excited about it due to the fact that he could then afford to go to college
and
afterwards.
Could get a GI Bill,
yeah. That one was just one of those things where it was like, damn. Then you realize that the kid whose dad just came to pick him up and take him out of there, literally Pratt Whitney, so they make military helicopters. So that kid's at the school because his dad's making a profit on the war that she lost her son in. And meanwhile, her son's just like, well, hey, when I get back, I can go to college and, I can continue everything. And that one, I think, was one where I was like, damn, that is hard to hear her explain and not feel really guilty.
If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to rate and subscribe. Check us out on Instagram at Cocktails and Classics Pod. Check us out on our website, www.cocktailsandclassicspod.com. You can hit up the show notes, make yourself a maple hot butter bourbon Jim Beam cocktail. Hit up the Casker link to get yourself some Jim Beam delivered directly to your door and get us a little kickback. Check out the Holdovers on Amazon Prime as of recording. Hey, this might be the last episode of the year, but if it's not, just want to say thank you for listening, keeping us afloat. And if you don't listen, hey, share us with somebody. Like, subscribe, leave a rating. It helps us out. And as always, watch responsibly. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, everyone. Thanks for another great year.
Bye.